Alex, start us off. Who is your first waiver wire recommendation?
It's Tim Hardaway Jr. of the Dallas Mavericks, who's rostered in about 37% of leagues. They have 4 games next week, the Mavericks do, so that definitely helps. Coming off the bench for playing 29 minutes a game, main thing is the shooting volume is really high and the percentages are sustainable. Some of this is Kyrie Irving's been out, right? So they need a little bit more of a playmaker, got to chuck up shots, but he's taking 15 shots a game. 9 of those are threes, 45% from the field, 43% from 3. That's not going to come down a lot for Tim Hardaway. And with 4 games next week, the shot volume you have to take it.
My first selection, Malik Monk of the Sacramento Kings. He's rostered on 41% of leagues. He scores, yes, but he also gets a decent amount of assists. He's getting 4.5 per game so far this season. The Kings do have only 3 games next week. Forgot to point out, by the way, there are 3 teams with only 2 games next week. That's Cleveland, Portland, and Toronto only have 2 games next week, so be wary of that. But back to Monk. De'Aaron Fox is day-to-day with an ankle issue, so they may not push his minutes next week. Monk also qualifies as a guard and forward on Yahoo. Anyway, over 4 games, 14.3 points, 2 boards, 4.5 assists. If you need points, if you need dimes, Monk is out there.
Good choice, Ken. My first waiver wire suggestion is Saddiq Bey, swingman for the Atlanta Hawks. Bey lost his starting job to Jalen Johnson a week ago, but guess who snuck back into the starting lineup? November 1st, Bey started against the Wizards, played 32 minutes, had 14 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 3-pointers. I would expect that it's going to be the roles between Jalen Johnson and Saddiq Bey are going to be somewhat in flux. Add in DeAndre Hunter as well. This team will there's going to be nights where they sit a player. So Johnson, Bey both might be moving in and out of starting lineup. But even off the bench, Bey was still seen plenty of run, 31 minutes, 25 minutes in his 2 games off the bench this season. Overall, averaging 11.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 1.2 steals, which is a career high. If you can keep that up, that's going to be solid production for you. And 1.6 3-pointers. The 3-pointers should creep up. He's hit 2.5 and 2.6 his first 2 seasons in the NBA. I believe he's the most 3-pointers ever for a player through the first 2 seasons of their career. And he's shooting a higher clip from downtown this year, 42% so far. I mean, if Bey increases, if his efficiency ends up being legit and he shows an improvement, he's not going to be at the 50% clip he is right now. But if he can shoot 45, 46%, his fantasy value increases considerably. And I think he's a lock to be a top 120 value.
Alex, who's your second pick?
It's Jalen Suggs out of Orlando. This will be a pretty Orlando-centric thing moving forward from me. But Orlando has 3 games next week, so pretty average. But Suggs averaging 10 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Obviously, it doesn't sound very good, but 2 steals and 0.6 blocks in 25 minutes. I think he had 4 steals last night. I would not expect his shooting to get meaningfully better. He's just not a very good shooter. They're trying him out at shooting guard, seeing if it works. I think the steals are very sustainable. We know he's a really good defender. When I checked last night, he was second in the NBA in deflections per game. So that's a good sort of sticky advanced stat for steals. And Ken pointed out that Cole Anthony is probably also an option for Orlando. Much more of an offensive player, averaging 16 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Doesn't have the steals upside. So it depends on what you need. If you need the scoring punch, add Anthony. If you need some defense, add Suggs, because they're both rostered about the same.
With my second pick, I'm going to just bang the drum again for someone we've always liked this season. Jeremy Sochan for your San Antonio Spurs surprisingly went back down to 51% rostered. I think he was dropped a lot after scoring 0 points in Game 2 versus the Clippers. Again, the Spurs have 4 games next week. As Alex pointed out, Devin Vassell is out with a groin issue. We don't know how long. That's going to be more uses for Sochan. Pop is letting Sochan figure it out at the point guard. And he had a nice bounce-back game, 14 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds, and a block, with maybe more importantly, only 1 turnover last night in that win over the Suns. Sochan also guard and forward eligible on Yahoo, so position flexibility as well.
Yeah. My second pickup, Deni Avdija of the Washington Wizards, 44% rostered. He is locked in to the starting lineup. 4 starts for the Wizards. Only 23.5 minutes per game so far. But, when most of the games are blowouts, that's bound to happen. I do think if the Wizards could be more competitive, he'll see more run. He had 40 fantasy points in the latest start against Atlanta, which was a somewhat competitive game. 22 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 2 3-pointers. That across the board categorical contributions. That's what Deni can do. We need a nickname for Deni. We really need a good.
It does.
Please. I never want to have to say that last name again. Please. But I love the way he could contribute across the board. 44% roster seems way too low for his skill set and what he can provide for a fantasy roster. I'm scooping it up in any leagues where he's available. 10-team leagues, he's kind of in that Sochan range where he's more of probably a bench guy. But I think he's worth a look because his production can increase as his minutes grow.
Okay, Alex, it's time for your long shot.
Mo Wagner, 14% roster. Wendell Carter Jr. broke his finger or his hand last night. No current timetable. Some guys recover better than others. Like Sabonis broke his thumb last year and just kept playing. But that was because it was his right thumb, and he's the most left-handed player in the NBA, so you may as well just chop the thing off. But regardless, I think Carter's probably going to miss some time here. We saw Wagner as a starter last year for stretches, and we've seen throughout his entire career, if he gets the minutes, he can put up numbers. So as a starter last year, he was 14 points on good efficiency, 51, 34, 86, with 7 boards, 2 assists, and a steal, not much of a shot blocker, and that was in 26 minutes. So I fully expect Wagner to get the start here. I don't know what they're going to do with the backup situation. They have Batatse there. Maybe they'll try more Jonathan Isaac at the 5 now that they have the opportunity, but that's very deep league stuff. But to me, Mo Wagner is we have him as a long shot, but to me, he's a 12-team ad if you need the production or have someone that you can easily drop.
All right, my long shot could also be my dull pick of the week, but it's starting forward Grant Williams for the Dallas Mavericks, rostered at only 20% of leagues. The Mavs have 4 games in week 3. Williams was a great streaming option last year when he was coming off the bench for Boston, and now he's starting for Dallas, getting more minutes. So far, early in the season, he's averaging 31.5 minutes per game. And hey, he drained 7 triples on Wednesday. He's averaging 4 3-pointers a game right now. As you can imagine, a lot of those are sweet setups from Luka. Williams, the corner office is always open for Grant. Knows how to catch and shoot those threes. Also will get you, should be getting better solid defensive stats than he's done so far for Dallas. But I like Grant Williams as a streaming option this week.
My long shot of the week, Malik Beasley, more of a categorical play. If you need 3-pointers, he is the guy to pick up. Beasley is locked into the starting lineup for the Bucks. He's played 25 or more minutes, started in each game, started all 4 games. Doing pretty solid right now, averaging 12 points, 3.3 rebounds, 2 steals. That's the sweetener right there. If he can keep up and average more than 1 steal per game, then his value increases. Unlikely since he's never done that in his career, but still something to watch. But from downtown, 3 3-pointers per game, 4th year in a row that he's been around that number. He can hit threes. That's what he does. So if you need 3-pointers, Beasley, the only thing he's going to do for the Bucks is stand in the corner and wait for the ball to get past to him so he can chuck up a 3. I love Beasley for that. If you're in a league, you're short on 3-pointers, he's a guy to consider.
Alan Seslowski suggested we mention some drops. I think some obvious ones, Isaac Okoro for Cleveland. They're getting healthy. They only have 2 games next week. I hope you still don't manage Matisse Thybulle in Portland. They also only have 2 games, plus Thybulle doesn't do anything on offense. And then Precious Achiuwa for Toronto. He's now hurt, and the Raptors only have 2 games. Any other drops? How do you guys feel about Max Strus as a possible drop?
I won't be surprised. I mean, I think it's very... I don't know if likely is the right word. It's likely that Strus is not really a 12-team guy, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know if his upside is like really inside the top 100. I don't think I'd drop him right now, but like he has a pretty quick, if he doesn't if he kind of goes back to like Heat Max Strus for the next 2 weeks, I'm completely fine letting him go and streaming that spot or chasing upside elsewhere.
Right now, he's actually on kind of a cold streak. He's shooting 34.8 for the season. He is a better shooter than that. He should be above 40%, be in that 42, maybe 43 range once he gets the stroke going. So his value actually, some areas he's going to show improvement.